kindly allow me to call upon on stage our keynote speaker, Mr. Kingsley Aikins. A round of applause for Mr. Kingsley Aikins, please.
After dinner. So good evening, everybody. My name is Kingsley Aikins. I come from Ireland, a land very far away. A land that throughout history, 10 million people left. Probably more people left per head from our country than any other country in the history of the world. And that's the bad news. But the good news is that it created an empire around the world, not built by military might or force of arms, but just the fact that so many people went overseas and created a life. And I was lucky enough to work for over 20 years for a diaspora organization, a bit like what you in Zambia are doing right now. We started with a dinner, like tonight, in New York, in the Waldorf Astoria, inviting the great and the good of the Irish diaspora to come to celebrate the inaugural dinner of the Irish diaspora organization we were establishing. The dinner was so unsuccessful that the only reason we had a second dinner a year later was to pay for the first dinner we had. And that's $700 million ago. We were modeled on an organization called the UJA, the United Jewish Appeal. What Jewish people as an entity in the United States did for their home country of Israel, we thought maybe our people would respond to the distant drum, the ancestral echo of a land far away. And of course, that's what happened. Now, I was involved with the start of this organization, and I'm a founder member of an organization called CASE. And CASE stands for Copy and Steal Everything. Go figure. Go figure who's doing this really well and see, can you learn from them? And so we learned from the UJA. In fact, I haven't said this publicly before, but I actually came up with the slogan for our organization. The organization was called the Ireland Funds, Funds for Ireland. And the slogan I'd come up with was peace, culture, charity. But the key guy, the driver behind this organization, was somebody called Tony O'Reilly. He was head of the H.J. Heinz Food Company. He was a wonderful, iconic rugby player. He was a very charismatic individual. He was a leader. He lived in Pittsburgh in the United States, and he got Dan Rooney, owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, to come with them on this kind of journey and to sort of set up this organization. So on that opening night, I always remember the opening night because I had this great plan of peace, culture, charity. But because we were based on learning from another organization, the UJA, Tony O'Reilly said, we're going to change the slogan to look Irish, dress British, think Yiddish. If we could get those three things working, maybe, just maybe, something great could happen. And of course, he was right. It became an extraordinary global organization. Sometimes we say of A&I, affluence and influence, of people who had an affection and interest for Ireland around the world. What started in one city is now in 39 cities in 13 countries. I believe nobody ever started a large organization. When you think about 21-year-old Steve Jobs and 27-year-old Steve Wozniak in a garage in Cupertino, putting some bits and pieces of a computer together and selling the first Apple computer, and they're now a $3 trillion company. Around the corner, you had two guys, one called Hewlett and one called Packard. Not too far away was a guy called Disney, Walt Disney, in a garage. His first cartoon came out of there. And if you look at so many companies, Starbucks or Amazon or Facebook, all in America, but even back in my home country of Ireland, where Ryanair as an airline started with one plane, 18 passengers, in 1985, flew from Waterford across to London. They're now flying 15 million passengers a month. So I love this notion, and I think you can apply it to diasporas. So when you think about diasporas, I mean, when I heard that word first, I thought diaspora was something you took two of with a headache. I thought it was some sort of, I didn't understand the word. But actually it's two Greek words, one meaning dia, which means over, and spiro meaning scattering. And it was always associated with the exile of the Jews from Babylon in the 5th century. It was always associated with the Jews and with Israel, etc. But now it's gone mainstream. And now there's over 100 countries in the world who are developing diaspora strategies and policies and programs and projects. And we're all learning from each other, which is the great thing, because it's a non-competitive industry. Somebody's going to help Zanzibar, is not going to help New Zealand or Finland. Somebody's going to help Ireland, is not going to help Swaziland or Switzerland. So we should, and we don't yet do enough of sharing. And I know Peter, he's here from the Irish Embassy up in Lusaka. And we're just chatting before dinner about what a role we can now play, and Ireland can now play, to share everything that we've learned. And just engage and help other countries move along that journey, because it is a journey. And some countries are, it's like a motorway, and some countries are Maseratis, and some countries are, you know, Morris Minors, and some countries are on bicycles, but it doesn't matter. We're all heading in the same direction, and we can learn from each other. So why am I here tonight? Well, I'm here tonight because of an old buddy that I knew so well at college, Susan Morris, who's with us this evening. And basically Susan rang me and she made me an offer I couldn't understand, and I'm here tonight. And with Frida, the unsinkable Frida, we're here to sort of engage and explore this topic of diasporas, who have become so important now. Just think of these statistics. In 1950, there was 1990, there was 150 million people living outside the country they were born in. Now that number is 280 million. And technology and communications are changing everything. In the old days, when you left your country, you were gone, and you were gone forever. Absence equaled exile. But now, you can be here and there. You can live a hyphenated life. You can live this kind of transnational life. No longer, now it's more important what you do than where you are. For possibly the first time, we can say geography is history because of communications, because of technology. And also, you have this issue now that there's a difference. There's a difference between the nation and the state. The state is lines on a map, but the nation is a global notion. So now what were once lost actors in your diaspora can now become national assets. Now you have this opportunity through technology, through the leadership of individuals, through bringing people together, to have this extraordinary sense of engagement. And I believe that every country, city, region, even organization has what I call diaspora capital. Diaspora capital is made up of three flows. Flows of people, flows of information, and flows of money. And when you think about diasporas, they've got some unique characteristics. They're passionate about their home country. They're proud of their home country. They believe in a patriotic dividend. They have a sense of giving back. Very often they don't want to go back, and that's fine. I always say it's better to be really successful in Seattle than unemployed in Sligo, which is the town I'm from. And so you have this extraordinary resource now that can be used in lots of different ways. As we just heard so eloquently from your Minister for Tourism. It can be tourism, but it can be investment, it can be trade, it can be culture. We always believed, working in the United States, there was two really important streets in New York. There was Wall Street, of course, but there was also Broadway. So your culture becomes an incredible solidifying force, an engaging force of bringing people together from around the world. And so that is the challenge, and that's the excitement of developing diaspora strategies. This notion that you have an empire not built by military might. Zambia has not, in my learning of your history, invaded anybody anytime soon. And the last military victory Ireland has, when in 1014 we beat the Danes in the Battle of Clontarf, that's a long time ago. And yet, you have this sense of empire, this sense of engagement and belonging. So, I think the opportunity is there to grasp it. The opportunity is there to seek out these great individuals you have. The big challenge, the big challenging question is that sometimes diaspora initiatives fail, and there are certain reasons why they fail. But one of the fundamental reasons why they fail is because nobody can answer a very simple question about the diaspora. And the question is, who are they, where are they, and what are they doing? And it's quite hard often to get that information. So there's hard work in front of all of us in doing this. But when you get it right, it's incredible. So I worked for 10 years for an organization called IDA, the Inward Investment Agency to get companies to locate in Ireland. And we were always looking for FDI, foreign direct investment. But we also had this concept of DDI, diaspora direct investment. And we knew that our diaspora potentially could invest themselves, but they could do something else. They could be ambassadors for us. They could make introductions for us. They could be, and we used to call this the nudge factor. The diaspora were the nudge factor. So my job in the IDA was to identify what I called tipping agents, people who could nudge a deal in Ireland's direction. And so you can use your diaspora in so many different ways. But I don't want to get between you and your main course. I'm always happy to chat to everybody tonight, and please connect with me on LinkedIn if you want lots more information, etc. As I was coming up here, I was thinking, what am I going to say? Because I thought I was going to speak after dinner. And I was reminded of Max Planck. I don't know if you remember Max Planck. Max Planck was a great German theoretical physicist who won the Nobel Prize 100 years ago this week. He went to Oslo, collected his prize, and came back to Germany and decided to hold a series of dinners like this all around Germany to talk about theoretical physics. And he had a driver. And the driver used to sit in the back at every event. And one day over breakfast, the driver said, you know what? I think I could give this speech just as well as you do because I've heard it so many times. And Max Planck had a sense of humor, so he said, tomorrow in Karlsruhe, you give the speech on theoretical physics, and I'll sit in the back of the hall, and that's what happened. And the driver got up and gave this magnificent speech, except just at the end, somebody put their hand up and said, excuse me, Professor Planck, can I ask a question? And he said, yes, and it was a very difficult theoretical question. And the driver, without missing a beat, said, you know what? He said, the answer to that question is so simple, even my driver could answer, and he's sitting at the back, sitting at the back of the hall. So to my buddy here tonight, Susan Morris, you're the driver for me tonight. Have a great dinner.